Hello, everyone. I'm Kimberly Guilfoyle, along with Juan Williams, Jesse Waters, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 9 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. Today, Roger Ailes, the founder of this network, sadly passed away at the age of 77. We'll look back at his life, his career, and share some personal stories later this hour. But first, breaking news tonight. President Trump is speaking on camera for the first time about the Justice Department's decision to appoint a special counsel to investigate possible coordination between his campaign and the Russian government during the 2016 election.
I respect the move, but the entire thing has been a witch hunt, and there is no collusion between certainly myself and my campaign, but I can always speak for myself and the Russians, zero. I think it divides the country. I think we have a very divided country because of that and many other things. So I can tell you that we want to bring this great country of ours together.
All right, Dan, I'll go to you on the communications here in terms of the messaging from the president.
So Dan Henninger of the Wall Street Journal wrote a piece this week where he said, just let Trump be Trump. And, you know, don't try to put him in a box. Let him be his own press secretary. Like, my advice yesterday was, when you have a special counsel, the best thing you can do is to say nothing, don't comment on it, and move on so you can actually focus on your agenda and talk about jobs, the economy, and this great foreign trip concept that he has put together. But the advice is useless because he's going to do what he's going to do. So when he decided to comment this morning by Twitter, and again here, I mean, it's a new way to deal with the special counsel. I don't think that they realize how serious this actually is. They'd like to just say that, oh, this is all fake. It might be. It could very well turn out to be that there is absolutely nothing there, but I think that it is actually like walking on a high wire without a net above the Grand Canyon.
Doesn't sound fun. Okay, Greg, what do you make of this? In terms of, you know, discussing it, there was one statement put out, then these statements today about the special counsel.
My favorite part is when he said, I can speak for myself and the Russians. I know what he meant, but it was still pretty funny.
Our president is awesome.
I'm also representing the Russians in this. Look, the great thing about this investigation is that they took the ball away from the kids playing in the street. So they can no longer play with this ball. Of course, though, they will find another ball because this investigation will never be enough. Instead of it being the right step, it'll just be the first step. It won't be enough. We need more investigations. We need more independence. But the thing is, how many times have we counted this guy out? I counted him out, 637 times during the campaign. I get a sense that Donald Trump is the opposite of like Bill Clinton. He's a creature that thrives on the antagonism, on the fight, which is why you can't count him out. A cat has 9 lives. He's like 3 cats. He has 27 lives. And that's why when I see him up there, I don't see somebody that really gives a damn, which is, I think, kind of refreshing to me and scary to his critics. Does that make sense?
I like that. Okay, Jesse, what do you make of this?
Yes, I agree with Greg. I think Trump has him exactly where he wants him. It's a brilliant strategy. This has been mapped out for months.
That's not what I said. Go ahead, put words in my mouth, you crazy liberals.
I do agree to a certain extent that you're saying is that, you know, Trump's not a traditional politician. He doesn't play by the traditional political rules, and people are judging him by the traditional political rules, and he was brought into D.C. to break the rules. So that's one thing. In context, and I hate to do this to Juan, but I want to just put this into perspective in terms of the other Obama scandals. You had people lying and dying and being bribed on countless occasions, from IRS to Benghazi to the Iran deal to the Bergdahl trade. Hillary smashed BlackBerrys with a hammer and deleted 30,000 emails that were under subpoena. And even on domestic terrorist attacks, the FBI could have prevented those things, and then the president comes out and makes it about guns and Islamophobia. So in all those things, there was no special counsel, and the media had no appetite. Here, I guess whatever you call this so-called Trump-Comey Russia scandal, no one died, no one lied, no one destroyed hard drives, and there's a special counsel all of a sudden, and the media is bloodthirsty for impeachment. So until I see a scandal, I think right now it just looks like an investigation.
I see.
But Juan, wasn't the media and also the liberals kind of bloodthirsty for impeachment or something like that kind of from the beginning, because this wasn't somebody that they supported or thought that would be suitable to be president?
Wait, who did they think was suitable to be president?
Did not think.
Oh,
was
did
suitable.
not. Well, yeah, I think it's right when conservatives say that the liberals have never gotten over the election. I think that's true. But I don't think what you said was true, Jesse. No one lied. I think that we know that Mike Flynn lied. I think we know that Donald Trump
not
has
what the investigation is about.
Oh, I think the
He was
investigation.
fired for
Of course,
lying
that's part of
to
the
Pence.
investigation.
He was cleared. Nothing illicit happened in his
We don't
conversation.
know. In fact,
But
according to
Jesse,
the
that's
FBI.
not right. This
What's not
investigation started last July, even before the election ever took place, into this counterintelligence investigation into possible collusion between Trump campaign officials and Russia. That started well
Who
before.
lied?
I don't know. That's why there is an investigation. But to say,
Right, so no
but
one
they
has
are, well,
lied
they-
so far.
they-
No,
well, we do know that Michael Flynn lied because
Thank
President
you.
Trump said that.
But that's not a part of the investigation.
Yes, it is
He's
part of the
being looked at
investigation.
right now for not registering as a foreign
No.
agent and collecting fees from foreign
but
governments.
and
He's
that's
been cleared
a scandal
for a
in and of itself
conversation
that he's
he had
taking
with
$500,000
Russia.
from Turkey and then opposing any action that would not benefit Turkey as a U.S.
That's
official.
not the
But let me just say,
collusion
but no,
aspect of the
hang on.
investigation.
Oh, hang on, Jesse, you can't just. I mean, what did Trump say? This is a witch hunt. You're doing the opposite. It's like you remember when somebody said, I think it was Kevin McCarthy, the House Whip said, and then he says it's a joke, but he says, "I bet the Russians are paying Trump." This was last summer, right? I don't want anybody to say someone's paying you other
that
than
was for the
Fox
beauty
News.
pageant.
I don't know, but I'm just telling you, there was big news today, it seems to me, when you have Rod Rosenstein, who is the Deputy Attorney General and Acting Attorney General in claims the Russia probe because Jeff Sessions has recused himself, tell people that, in fact, he knew Comey was going to be fired before he wrote the memo that was then cited by the White House as the basis for Comey's firing.
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that? It means he was set up and used like a stooge.
No, that's what people do. No, it's like, I'm sorry. All of these errors are not political errors. They're human errors. It's like, when Trump says to Comey, hey, he's a good guy, go easy on him. That's what a guy does. That's what a boss does.
I want to ask you though, why is that an error when they?
I don't-
the Rosenstein piece in particular.
Hey, I don't like this guy. Can you do a report on him? I don't know what the problem is there. I think I've done that many times at work.
And then to say that they
You did it today.
No, I
that's an error.
I think it is. I think it's a non-political human error. It's what a guy does who's been a businessman.
It's not a criminal offense.
But you're saying it's more loose semantics.
That's not right. That's not legal.
I understand what he's saying as an editor, right? You're saying it's more loose semantics versus intent.
It's human
No,
behavior.
it was write a memo that will cover me because I want to fire him.
No, he says the guy's firing. Do something.
And
Write
they
about
lied
it.
about it.
Who lied?
Or
No one
the
lied.
press secretaries who said, oh, no, Trump was acting on Rosenstein's memo. He didn't say Trump told Rosenstein to write the memo. But anyway, it seems to me that when you also have, Jesse, reports that the Trump campaign had 18 undisclosed contacts with the Russians in the last 7 months, oh, gee, something's going on. And then you have Trump saying, this is the greatest witch hunt ever. What does that do?
You know what the opposite of a witch hunt
Everybody
is?
on the defensive,
You know what the
including people who are trying to defend him.
The opposite of a witch hunt is, I guess, the way you might have approached, Lois Lerner, or how the media approached Lois Lerner with the IRS scandal. That's the opposite of a witch hunt. Nobody bothered to hunt anything.
Yeah,
And
if
that's
you're on the defensive, you're shredding documents and withholding information from Congress, which Holder was held in contempt of Congress for. I mean, Hillary destroyed 30,000 emails. That looks a little defensive to me, Juan.
Let me just say, has Hillary been found guilty? After all of the Republican probes and hearings, anything?
No, but that
Zero.
No, that's why
investigation may be
he
real.
was fired because he botched that obvious
I see.
investigation.
You're never happy.
But no, you're just using the argument.
happy
You're
right now.
laughing at the same argument you used on him.
Tell me.
You're saying that, there's nothing, they're there because there hasn't been an investigation.
No.
That's what you just did
No,
to him.
I said there was an they've been extensive, endless investigations by Republicans of Benghazi, IRS.
He wasn't prosecuted.
Since this investigation discussion is going so well, President Trump today also denied that he tried to shut down the FBI investigation against his former national security advisor, Michael Flynn.
Did you at any time urge former FBI Director James Comey in any way, shape, or form to close or to back down the investigation into Michael Flynn? And also, as you look back,
No. Next question.
have you had any recollection where you've wondered if anything you have done has been something that might be worthy of criminal charges in these investigations or impeachment, as some on the left are implying?
I think it's totally ridiculous. Everybody thinks so. And again, we have to get back to working our country properly so that we can take care of the problems that we have.
No.
What do you expect him to say? So tell
Not
me, do you
yet.
think you were guilty of anything that was
Not
illegal?
yet.
You know, you got me there. Yeah, I'm guilty. You got me. What do you expect him to say?
On advice of
yeah.
counsel, yes, no.
I mean, geez.
Wrong.
No, how about the old Al Gore one? Mistakes were made.
Yeah.
You know,
He's the
no
pattern.
controlling authority, right? But I mean, he knows that mistakes were made. He knows, in fact, that now that there's been an admission that the Trump team knew that Mike Flynn, right, was under investigation when they put him in as national security advisor.
Dana, how would you advise the president to answer those questions?
Well, I think that was
Because we
right.
knew if he would take the podium and those questions would come.
If you're going to get it I don't know, again, I think referring it to the special counsel, it would be fine and say we're cooperating. You saw my statement. I'm going to talk about whatever. But saying no, fine. I mean, and just say nothing more. Just be quiet and move on, making them ask you the next question. You know that from juries. But I also think that we can do this whole thing about what about in the past, and that makes for good discussion. And I do not like hypocrisy at all. And so I actually like that for a discussion, but it doesn't matter a hill of beans when it comes to this actual investigation. In the investigation, they won't say, well, what about this and what about that from 8 years ago? They're going to try, and I don't think, everybody just wants this real tight and get it over with as quickly as possible so
What's
that
the
everyone can
likelihood
move
of
on.
that?
I don't know the facts. And as more and more of the stuff comes out, as Juan was describing, the whole $500,000 and the Turks and a conversation with Susan Rice before the administration and the action that was not taken in Raqqa, on his advice, and that wasn't disclosed, and then Mike Pence didn't know about that, and now he's saying, well, nobody ever told me that he was actually under investigation, though Michael Flynn's people say that. There's a lot here that I think could be cleared up pretty quickly by a professional like Bob Mueller.
All right.
I will have to give it to you. Flynn is a problem. He was a problem, and he continues to be a problem. I'll definitely say that. Greg, as much as it pains me to say, made a great point the other day that hoping is not obstruction. If hoping was a crime, everybody'd be in prison. You can't say, I hope this guy's clear.
But when your boss says, I hope you do this, that's why you document things. If that includes harassment or something like this where you think that there might be a problem. When
if someone says, I hope this happens, I don't consider it harassment. Maybe I have a lower threshold.
Well, actually, you might.
Yeah?
But that's not what the law says. It will depend on what the law says.
I think the law has to be intent and intent to undermine, and I don't think.
And President Trump said no. So we now know his intent. If he is saying it's not under oath, but he's saying in public in front of the world, he's saying no. So that is his statement.
And I hate to compare it to Obama, but he was pretty outgoing when he was saying that Hillary didn't commit a crime over the emails.
You know what's the problem?
There was not a smidgen of corruption at the IRS.
Here's the problem with intent. He tells Pence and he tells everyone else, get out of the room. I just want to talk to Comey. Oh, and then he says, I hope.
Maybe it was a romantic dinner, Juan. You don't know.
Dan has made the point before. As a businessman coming into the Oval, and things are very different in terms of how a president should ask. And in a business boardroom, et cetera, you say, oh, I want to have a talk. You and I, one-on-one, CEO to CEO, everybody leave the room. It's very different here, and he needs to be advised as to what's proper to protect the president, to protect the United States in the Oval. Coming up. Yes, sweetie.
I've been trying to politely try to interject. We're talking, one of the key examples here is with Flynn. Whether it is right or wrong what he did was not a political move on his part. It's what's called a human move. If you are a non-political person, what do you rely on?
Yeah.
Loyalty. So he thinks this guy, Flynn, he maybe made some mistakes, but he's a good guy. Hey, go light on the good guy. That's a human response. It's not, might not be the right response. It's not the political response, but it's a guy who defaults on loyalty, which is kind of a human quality. That's all I'm saying.
I'm glad we waited for that point. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll
be right back.
President Trump says he's close to picking a new FBI director. We'll tell you who the front runner is up next. Stay with us.
All right, Kimberly and I switched music today, in case you didn't see that. 9 days after he dismissed James Comey as FBI director, President Trump says his top choice to lead the Bureau is former Senator Joe Lieberman, and his announcement could come at any moment.
We're going to have a director who's going to be outstanding. I'll be announcing that director very soon, and I look forward to doing it. I think the people in the FBI will be very, very thrilled.
Yeah. I think Senator Joe Lieberman could be a very interesting choice. Again, you have people like Bob Mueller, Lieberman, these sort of giants of Washington, D.C. that have really good reputations. Kimberly being willing to be public servants and maybe come back and do this. It's not a done deal. And in fact, we just found out that the New York Times is saying that the White House is signaling this announcement may not come before President Trump leaves on his foreign trip tomorrow.
Yeah, so that just came out. Look, Joe Lieberman is somebody who really both sides get along with very well and admire. I've spent time with him. He's very personable. He's bright. He's somebody that really, in terms of his issues and policies, it tends to identify more, with Republicans. This is someone that Senator McCain had considered as a running mate, as his vice presidential choice before he chose Sarah Palin. And just the different things that I see him attend in terms of the Hudson Institute or whatnot. He's there. He's very smart as it relates to foreign policy and national security. I think he's a patriot, very hardworking. So I don't think that he would be a bad choice. I think it would be a good choice. It just depends. You have to evaluate all the potential options and candidates who would be best suited for that particular organization, which is a very important one, and especially during this time.
Democrats support him, Juan?
No, and I think
Really?
yeah.
Even for this?
No, so this was a little bit of a surprise to me because, like Kimberly, I've had just very positive experience with Senator Lieberman over the years, and I find him absolutely trustworthy. But here's the situation right now. Lieberman was with a law firm since he left the Senate, Dana, and the law firm has represented Trump in some litigation, in addition to which, remember that he backed John McCain, who was his very close friend in the Senate. I mean, the three amigos, McCain, Lindsey Graham, and Senator Lieberman, on so many issues. So he backed McCain against Obama. That didn't sit well, of course, with the hardline politics in the Democratic Party. And then subsequent to that, opposed the Iran nuclear deal that Obama was struggling to get passed in the face of strong Republican opposition. So there are a lot of people who say, well, really?
But this wouldn't be about politics. And Jesse, just because his law firm, which is quite large, had done some work for Donald Trump, who is a billionaire and now president, it doesn't mean that Joe Lieberman was actually working on any of that business. I guess you'd have to see if that's the case, but it doesn't seem he'd be tainted in that way.
I don't think he would be tainted. I think he's a great choice to be FBI director. I interned for Joe Lieberman when I was at Trinity College in Connecticut.
This explains your greatness.
It explains everything.
It's Lieberman's world.
He doesn't arrest Limbaugh in the...
That was after. That came afterwards.
Limbaugh's world.
I also think he's smart enough that if Trump ever invites him over for dinner, he'll say no. He's also not what you'd call an electric speaker, so I don't think he's going to be hot-dogging it all over the place. But just remember what his background is. He was a part of the recount and urged Gore to drop out to save the country and to heal the country. He was also someone that voted against impeaching Clinton, but really took a lot of moral courage to say what he did in office was reprehensible. And I think afterwards he voted for the Iraq War.
Right, yeah. He's a principled
person. He's a principled guy with integrity.
Nonpartisan in so many respects.
And I think he'll sail through Senate confirmation.
Let me just quickly say, but he's never been a prosecutor, right? He's never been an FBI agent, never served in the Justice Department, never handled a major
I do
agency.
think that is an interesting point. Greg, do you have any strong feelings either way on Joe Lieberman?
Oh, absolutely not. Please go to the next segment. Yes, Lieberman is a reasonable Democrat, which is as rare as a cat that barks. But worse than anything, he's an old white male, and we've had enough of them. Right now, we are overlooking the obvious choice. Who is available right now, beloved by the media, no matter what she does? Chelsea Manning.
Chelsea Manning.
The biggest traitor in history, beloved by the media, who dumped probably the largest amount of classified documents in 35 years, and everybody still loves her. You know how you hire a safe cracker to design a crack-proof safe? Then hire the biggest traitor so you can fight espionage. That makes sense to me. The media will love it because they're a bunch of idiots.
Jesse thought you were going to say Chelsea Clinton.
I did.
And
Chelsea Manning.
And then I thought, well, why not Hillary Clinton? She's available.
She is too.
Chelsea Clinton Foundation.
The only person
know
with
about
less
Clinton,
expertise than Chelsea
right?
Manning is Chelsea Clinton.
This is true. All right, directly ahead, one of the most absurd comments about President Trump ever from the ladies at The View. We'll play the tape next.
The View.
President Trump said yesterday that no politician in history has been treated worse by the press. One of the ladies on The View had a curious objection to the president's claim.
I did want to point out that there have been a couple who have been perhaps treated more unfairly or as unfairly. Let's talk about, Barack Obama.
Oh my God.
Barack Obama!
She's right.
How so, Greg?
Because the mainstream media was so obedient that he was left unchallenged and resulted in a mediocre president. He had potential to become a good president, but he never had to try. He never had to explain himself, because if you requested that he explain himself, that would be construed as racist. Which then, because if you criticized Obama, of course you were a bigot. We went through that for years.
Yeah.
And that assumption resulted in Trump, because so many people were tired of being smeared as racist when in fact they were just conservative.
So he never faced any adversity that
Right.
he had to overcome and improve his
Yes.
presidency.
Yes.
Wasn't it?
Juan keeps shaking his head.
Ron, do you disagree with that?
Like he's
wow.
By the way, Ron
It's true.
knows that here. He's like,
What is going on? It's true. I mean, Greg, you yourself, I can give testimony. I'm a witness. Greg Gutfeld going after Obama regularly.
Really?
That's one guy on one network.
One guy on one network. Oh, I see. Our network doesn't count. We're not the biggest cable network in America.
Well, it's not CNN,
Oh, I
MSNBC,
see.
ABC,
But I was-
CBS,
Can you say in the world?
everything else.
In the world, the biggest in the world, Ms. Guilfoyle. But I just think, what an amazing claim. He opened himself up to such criticism that, Senator McCain would say, oh, no, I was treated worse. That you think about President Clinton, who was impeached. Or you think about Richard Nixon, who was forced out of office. Or you think about Jimmy Carter, who was mocked for sailing or whatever he was doing, paddling with rabbits.
Ooh,
come
that's
on.
so mean. They
Oh,
made
so
fun of
mean.
him with a rabbit.
Oh, and this guy.
They called Trump a Klan member.
What?
I mean,
No,
it's so
Trump.
crazy,
It
right?
was
They called him Hitler.
Yeah, they called him
It's so
Hitler.
nuts. And you're like, he was called a rabbit. I mean,
A rabbit. No,
rabbits are
By the way,
awesome.
I think that was fake news, the rabbit story.
That was fake news. Oh, if we only knew at the time.
I don't know how many people at home know the rabbit
Okay,
story.
please tell.
Fake?
What is the
No, it
rabbit?
wasn't
In
fake.
a canoe.
In a canoe, and
Yes.
it was a rabbit was going to attack
And he
Jimmy
whacked
Carter.
the rabbit. Yes.
I think he murdered it.
Oh, yes.
Let's add to the
well,
video.
at least
in his heart.
But at least he was
No,
born
no,
in the country. Remember, Obama wasn't born here. Oh,
Wasn't
who
it the
said
Hillary
that?
Clinton
Who said
campaign that started
Oh,
that
get
rumor?
out of here.
Kimberly, can you knock some sense into that? Figuratively.
Hillary Clinton, her campaign did raise this issue.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true.
Thank you. See, we can all agree.
Yeah, just raising a question.
That's right.
Where was he born?
Kimberly, I hope he was born in America. Then it's okay.
I'm hoping that birth certificate
Look,
is
that
real.
whole birtherism thing, total human error.
Human error.
Oh, that's a jab at me.
I have no idea what that is.
Yeah. Typical establishment.
Kimberly,
Shooting in the tent
Wow,
at
you
the
really have
table.
morphed into you know who.
when
You lost control.
When Whoopi makes
Yeah.
a comment like this on The View, is this believable? Do people watch at home and say, you know what? Obama was treated really poorly. They yelled, you lie during the State of the Union, and they hear about the birth certificate. Or do people just say, I mean, you have to be kidding me?
Well, the mainstream media, liberal media, and liberals, they're like the laugh track. They're like, woo-hoo-hoo, for all the
Everybody
comments.
cheered.
I know. Did you hear the audience? They
Yeah.
love it. They love it. So, I mean, but that's actually what Whoopi believes. That's what she believes.
But let me just ask you
That's what
something.
people believe.
If you attached President Obama's name to any of the stuff that's happened to President Trump in the last month, don't you think that this network,
just
that
let Chelsea Manning
Republicans,
go and nobody
conservatives would
cared.
go ballistic?
I
Just let Chelsea Manning go and the
I
media
don't
didn't
think
care.
they let it go. They loved him. They loved him. They loved him. If he was their guy,
Oh
if they
my
could,
gosh.
they would put him back in for a third term.
I mean,
Trust
they
me.
called President Obama the Messiah. They said he was a rock star. He was
How about
so
a
handsome.
thrill up your leg?
He was so
A thrill up
perfect.
your leg, Jesse.
I think there's a distinction that Whoopi Goldberg is making. She is saying that President Trump is saying no one has been treated worse by the media. Whoopi is actually saying nobody has been treated worse, but she means by Republicans. The media didn't treat President Obama badly. I think she thinks that Republicans treated
Elected
him badly.
Republicans?
And I do think, obviously, the media takes a shot at Republicans for decades, and you just sort of have to factor that in. Don't you remember that first press conference when President Obama was asked, what enchants you about the White House?
Yes, the most
And there was actual
enchanting thing.
news happening that day. But I do think that President Trump is much more accessible to the press, even though he gets frustrated with them and he punches them and they punch back. He had lunch with them today. He's going to go on this foreign trip. I bet he does a lot more. They get to hear his direct thoughts from Twitter.
Who is
He's
more
much
transparent?
accessible.
Who is more transparent, Trump or Obama?
Trump's more
Not even
transparent
close.
to a fault.
Not even close.
Not even close.
All right, up ahead, a big shot Democrat makes a shocking admission about his own party.
Sam Cooke. One of the major reasons President Trump is in the White House is because he connected with middle-class voters, many of whom fed up with the typical ways of Washington. Now, Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel, a big shot in the Democratic Party, has offered his diagnosis for why the Democrats seem so out of touch with regular Americans.
I think we don't talk about and fight for the middle class like we are. We believe we're for them, but if they don't hear we're for them, then we got a problem. Because we're not going to convince them that they're wrong. And it's not just a string of policies. It's also a set of values that respect who they are in their lives. And I think we come off and can come off as a party disdainful of them as the bedrock of this great country.
Dana, do you agree with Rahm Emanuel?
I do, and I think that they would be wise to listen to him, because if you think back to 2006, when Republicans lost all those seats in that midterm election during President Bush's second term, who led the Democratic effort for all of those seats to be won? It was Rahm Emanuel. Right. And so I think that he absolutely understands politics and messaging very well. He's in the Midwest, so he's not in one of these coastal states where he's sort of cocooned. And I also think that if the daily stories out of the White House weren't so all-encompassing and taking up all the oxygen in the room, I actually think the biggest story right now would be that the Democrats, 6 months, 7 months after this election, are still completely in disarray. They do not have a strong leader. They do not have even a plan. They're running in all directions. They actually they benefit from all of this Trump coverage so that they can skate sort of under the radar.
So, Kimberly, when you hear what Rahm Emanuel said, he said Democratic values are okay. It's just that middle-class Americans aren't hearing it. Now, is he lying, or is this real, that it's just a failure to communicate?
I think it's how convenient for him to say that they're the ones with the problem, that they're not hearing it, that the Democratic Party is perfect, that they're great on messaging.
No, he didn't say they were perfect.
Yeah, but you know what? But he's not accepting actual responsibility to say that there needs to be transformative change within that party. Because if you don't take this election as a complete wake-up call, the working class, men and women and middle-class families across this country resoundingly made a choice to go with Donald Trump and not to go with the Democratic Party. Why? Because they are not resonating and speaking to their values, to their pocketbooks, to their dinner tables at night, to the gas in their car, to the job security that they hope and crave for, to being able to educate their children. And they need to wake up, because this should have been an easy layup for them, and it's not. And instead, Trump got it on a three-pointer shot.
And Rahm, by the way, Greg, said this. He said, you know, President Trump goes after the big cities like Chicago for all the murders, and Philadelphia and New York and all that. He says, but he never goes after the suburbs where there's a real opioid crisis. Never mentions it.
I think, boy, CD-ROM, he's a little late to the party. I think he's going to next. He's going to tell us about
That's awesome.
He's going to tell us about a great new sitcom called Seinfeld. We should be checking out. Where the hell is this guy been?
No soup for you.
He wouldn't know the middle class if it sat in his lap. This is a guy who, in the middle of bi-weekly bloodshed in Chicago, was taking time out to mock Chick-fil-A. His priorities are really based on the people that he hangs out with at charity auctions and cocktail events. He would break out in hives if he went to Walmart. He would need CPR if he went to Fridays or Applebee's, which have great ribs, by the way. Not the one in the Midtown area, but it's okay. My point is that he is so irrelevant and far gone. I mean, this is a story that we were talking about months ago, and now he's finally wising up in that. By the way, that was horrible tape. We really could do better.
All right, well, so here's his solution,
Okay, Professor.
Jesse, I saved this one for you because I think you would be the man to really think, is this the right solution? And here's what Rahm says. He thinks that what we need to do is stop focusing on Trump's antics, Trump's statements, Trump's tweets, and focus on the issues, the policy debates.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say Rahm is right, because he's right here. But
Because you would choke to death if
you know what? I hate to say Rahm's right, but even when he's right, he still speaks about Americans like they're different species. He's speaking about us and them, and they don't understand us.
But it's more of the bitter clinger thing.
Yeah, you know, and it comes off as snobby. No one wants to vote for a slob. He comes off as, you know, like the PC police. You know, they don't understand us. He's like an anthropologist that's studying some ancient tribe in order to, like, gain their trust and trick them to, like, sell them his land or something like that. Trump speaks to regular Americans. He doesn't need a translator. Like, how do I talk to middle-class people? Right. And it's corny. and I'm just not buying it.
Well, we'll see. I mean, because I think that he's onto something with the economic message.
He's onto something
I
that
think he's
everybody else
onto
was onto
No,
2 years ago.
No, but but Kimberly said it right. The Democrats, and Dana said this too, Democrats still are in disarray largely after this, and their numbers, their approval numbers, Greg, are down now to the point they're almost equal with Republicans.
Everybody's down. Let's face it.
All right, some emotional news to discuss when the 5 returns. We're going to pay our respects to the founder of Fox News, Roger Ailes. He passed away today. Back in a moment.
Welcome back. So, Roger Ailes passed away today. Roger had a huge effect on this country, on the news, on all of us around the table, in every building where a Fox News employee has worked or works today. But it wasn't just Fox News and its millions of viewers that benefited from Roger. All other news outlets were improved by him, for he pushed them to rethink all their biased views. He called them on it, then sought to fight it with a profound idea that became Fox News. You can see his effect not just in Fox News' wild success, but among those who wished there were no opposition to their views. Those outside the news may not have liked FNC, but their lives have also been improved by smarter analysis created by healthy competition. Roger created a more informed public by making our competition work for it, which probably drove them nuts. The mark of an achievement is that you can't imagine the world before it. What was news like before Fox News? I remember it. It was a place where diverse opinion was scarce, where millions of patriotic Americans were ignored by a mainstream media that dominated a world of frightened, dull-witted conformity. That era died when Fox News was born. Personally, I wouldn't be sitting here if it weren't for Roger. He gave me a show in the dead of night called Red Eye, even though he had actually met me first. What was he thinking? And I'm just one of hundreds of stories like that. He was a man who saw something in all of us, potential, talent, edge, things that other people didn't see. We will always be grateful for that. But we saw something in him too, something we'll likely never see again. So, well, I'll start with you, Dana. Your thoughts?
A lot. When you said that you wouldn't be here without Roger, I think that is true, I guess, possibly for everybody here at the table. In particular, I think of, for me, I had never actually expressed my own opinion in public before I came here. When I had been on television before, I was always speaking on somebody else's behalf. And I really don't know what he saw in me that he thought that I could do this. Because I remember when we first started the 5-6 years ago, we would be talking about things like legalization of drugs, and people say, well, what do you think? I'm like, oh, I don't know. But then with some time and space to develop your career is actually what I think happened here for me. I saw that George H.W. Bush said that he doesn't think he would have been president if it hadn't been for Roger Ailes and the political consultancy that he provided for him and the humor. And then I would say this, so I don't take up all the time. If you are interested in communications or television, or you want to improve your own presentation style, Roger Ailes wrote a book called You Are the Message, and it really is the one that you should, if you haven't read it yet, put it on your list or reread it, because it really gives you the best insight into how to be a good communicator. It's technology agnostic. It is about how to actually be your best communicator as yourself. So he will be missed, and my sympathies, of course, for his family.
KG?
You know, Dana, that book was also very instrumental in my life, and I remember it was part of the assigned reading at UC Davis in my rhetoric and communications class, and it was a public speaking class, and I remember I loved the book. I underlined it, highlighted it, the whole deal. I'll never forget the day that I was on CNN, and I got a call. My son says, oh, Roger Ailes would like to speak to you, and I was like, whoa, you know, like the Wizard of Oz. And I took the call, and he said, this is Roger Ailes. I want to tell you, I think you're doing a great job on television, and was interested in me coming to the Fox News channel, and I was so excited. And I remember when I first met him, and I brought my book, and it was all marked up, and I was so happy to have him, sign it for me, and to meet somebody that had such an incredible formative impact on so many people's lives. And I came over here and worked, and he, took a chance on me and developed me from a prosecutor into an on-air talent. He saw something, in all of us. Each of us have a unique story. What I really loved most about him is he was such a loyal person. He was very devoted to his employees, whether you were on camera, off camera. We all mattered. He cared about our families. When my father was dying, he was so there for me, and he became a second father to me. And I hope people understand that, because we all have different and unique experiences. And this is, you know, a complicated life. I think that he lived. I think he made me a better person, and certainly a better, you know, co-host and on-air talent, and also very good to my son. And my son and Zach, friends, and go to baseball games together and share Sundays. And I always felt a part of a family, even though, you know, my parents had passed away and I had no family here. So, you know, my heart goes out to Beth and to Zachary, who's a lovely young man who's been raised incredibly well, you know, so God bless them and his commitment to not only this channel, to all of our lives, but to this country.
Juan?
Well, you know, to me, just looking at it from a purely political standpoint, I think he had a key role in Nixon. I think he had a key role in Reagan.
Yep.
That's where I met him. And I think he had a key role in George H.W. Bush's presidency. So he not only created the top cable news channel in America, or somebody said the world, but he also put powerful people in office. You know, just as we're talking about Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell wouldn't be there without Roger Ailes as Senate Majority Leader. So his influence, his power is so incredible. I do think that you've got to, you know, discuss, you know, he left here in very troubled circumstances, terrible charges against him. And, you know, it's just not the Roger I knew, not the Roger I loved. He was so great to me, to my family. You know, he persuaded my wife that I should come here back in 1996, 97 when I first signed a contract. And just a great guy all along.
And stood by you, too, going through a very difficult time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
With NPR, yeah.
Jesse?
I'm just incredibly grateful to have been able to work for Roger Ailes for 15 years. He's probably one of the most patriotic people I've ever met. Love this country very much. One of the funniest people I've probably ever met. Very quick-witted. Great judge of talent. Really understood the TV screen. An excellent storyteller. And, you know, I owe everything to him. Fox has been my whole life and career for the last couple of years. And, you know, it is unfortunate that he left here in conjunction with some of those charges of inappropriate behavior, but I just want to say he's been a great father, great husband. I feel terrible for them, and I wish them all the best, and he's a very influential American.
There's one last thing. Before the show, I was watching Sean Hannity on Tucker, and he said something that was so, it sounded just like me. When Hannity started, he said he was terrible. Well, I was actually worse. And the fact that somebody would stick with you when you're bad, and he stuck with Hannity when Hannity claimed he was bad, and well, you should have seen Red Eye in 2007, a sweaty mess like me, but he stuck with it. Maybe because he wasn't watching it, but he stuck with me, and I mean, he stuck with all of us.
Watch it, and Zach loves your show.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Once again, our deepest condolences to the Ailes family. The 5 returns in a moment.